Okay, so checking in with you with a new awareness today. I have a pattern with my son. He's grown. He lives out of the house. He's in his mid-20s. He's out on his own. He's living an independent life. But we have this pattern that is repeating itself again and again and again. And it came up again today. So here's sort of the scenario. He's flying into town for the weekend. He needed a car to get to a wedding that he has, a weekend wedding that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours away, and asked if he could borrow one of the cars. And I said yes. It worked because my husband, his stepdad, was going to be out of town that weekend. And of course, what's really true, what's really going underneath it all is, like, as a mother, there is this part of me that always wants my kids to um for their lives to be peaceful, to for them not to have a lot of stress or discomfort, and to help them out. Like what mother doesn't want to help their kids out? So I agreed to give them the car. And then I later come to find out that my husband, his plans shifted or changed, or I didn't understand them. And he's coming back earlier than needed. And I was going to be gone at our lake house with one of our cars. We have two cars. So that, I was going to be there, and the car, he's going to come back home and there was going to be no car for him. And which isn't ideal. It's doable, but not ideal. And that's not even the point. So when I found out my husband's plans changed, or I wasn't clear about them, I texted my son and said, "Hey, I need the car back at a particular time." And he's like, "Whoa, wait a minute. That messes up my whole plan. And I can't do that. That's not convenient for me." So here's what happened. So he replies in a text saying, "That's not convenient for me. I got stuff going on and I can't be back when you need your car back." What do you imagine? Or like, what happens in you when you hear me say that? I'm curious. The first place I go to is like utter rage. Like utter rage. I was like, what are you talking about? You can't adjust your life. I am giving you our car. I am doing you this favor. I am being nice and helpful and all the things. So I get in this like rage, like, what are you talking to? Like, what are you saying to me? You should be like at my feet, thanking me that I am letting you use the car at all. Who do you think you are? Like, all of this is rising up in me, and I am ready to, like, give it to him in text. And he replies to me. I actually think I want to read the text. Um, he replies to me and says, "From my perspective, I asked to use a car from the 15th to the 19th to get out of Chicago and get to the wedding, and I was told yes. And now I'm being told it needs to be back at a time that changes my plans." And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And I reply with, "From my perspective," all capital letters, by the way, "I am doing you a favor and adjusting my life to help you. And you aren't considering the impact on me. And yes, I said yes to you using the car, but when someone does you a favor and you bend your schedule, you expect them to bend yours. Why can't you get back earlier on the 19th? What's so inflexible about your schedule?" So now I am clearly triggered, but I'm kind of pretending like I'm not triggered. I am pretending like he is the problem. And he replies back. We go back and forth a few times. And then he sends me a funny video, which I am going to include in this letter to you, for this video, or whatever we're calling this. And then he replies, "I needed the car from the morning of the 15th to the afternoon of the 19th, which is what I requested. If that doesn't work for you guys and it's not convenient, I totally understand. Let me know, and I will either change plans or not use the car. And I'm still like simmering about this. And we went back and forth a few more times, but I started to calm myself down, and then I noticed it. I noticed the part of me was like, um, I'll call you right back. Sorry, I'm answering my daughter right now who's texting me. So what I realized is like the minute I let go of, him using the car, I could feel that part of me is like, you're not being helpful. You're not being a good mom. You're not, you're just all the judgment, all the noise, like all the stories, and like you should be helping him and what's wrong with you. And so I just like took a breath and I replied to him and I said, um, I'm going to take responsibility here. Um, like I said, putting these requests in the calendar, we're making agreements. So it's really helpful to me if we get these requests in the calendar, first of all, because I am juggling a million things all the time. You got your one little life, and I'm juggling like myself and my business and the home and my husband's schedule and the other kids in our family system. And there's just a lot of moving parts. You just got you. That's it. I got a lot more. So we got to put things in the calendar and make really clean and clear agreements. That's one thing. But the second thing is, I said, sometimes I put you and your sisters ahead of me and my needs because I want to help you. I want to be there for you. I'm your mother. I have this deep desire to be of service to you and make your life easy, all the things. And that's on me. And I said, he goes, I know, he replies, I know, and I appreciate that so much. And I was like, I don't always feel your appreciation. Often it feels like entitlement to me. And I'm opening to look at, that more closely, but I'm going to give you that feedback. And he says, I'll definitely make an effort to be more expressive with my appreciation. And I stopped for a minute and I'm like, that's not what I want. I don't want you to express your appreciation. That is not what I'm looking for. And so I replied, that's not what I'm asking for. And he says, well, what are you asking anyway? And I said, I told him, I said, usually when things like this are coming up, there is sort of nuggets of truth. So I would like you to look at like, is it true? Is there any part of you that feels entitled? Could I be pointing him at something that's true? And then I said, I also want to take responsibility for my part, which is I choose to put you ahead of me. I choose that. That's my problem. And then when you don't reciprocate or do something that I think you should be doing for me, I get mad. I get frustrated. And then I start projecting. I call you entitled and spoiled and inconsiderate and all the things, at least in my head, even if I'm not doing that out loud. And so I took responsibility for one, not being clear about our agreement. I just kind of said yes and didn't really register for what the dates were and times and the impact it was going to have on me and my husband. And then two, I said, I want to be clear that like I think I'm entitled to your appreciation, to you behaving in a particular way. And I just want to take responsibility for that. But I'd also like for you to take responsibility for looking at like, are there ways in which you might feel entitled? So he replies, yep, I agree. He says, I'm sure there is some entitlement. And I think deep down, I probably have a story that you owe me, but I'll explore that more and expand on it. And I said, thank you. Um, and then he just said, I wish in instances like this or cases like this, you'd be more clear about your needs and wants. And then we can communicate clearly instead of you saying yes and then amending later. And I really sat with that. Like, I think there is a way in which I, in this case, do feel like I'm entitled to adjust because I'm the mom and he's the kid. Well, it's true. First of all, he's a grown adult now. But second, he's like holding a boundary. Like, if you're agreeing to something, I want you to honor your agreement and not get upset with me. Like, I'm honoring my agreement. I asked for this. You said yes. And I want that to be honored as well. So I think what I'm saying here is there's a couple of things. One of them is when we have a pattern of conflict with another, it's important that we look at our part, because there's a lot of things going on in those conflicts that will perpetuate themselves if they don't get resolved, if you don't get to the root core of the issue. And if you want to create authentic and meaningful connection with the people in your lives, you have to start to look at the triggers, the way they're showing up in the relationship, and be willing to break down the parts of you that are showing up inside that trigger so that you can build that self awareness muscle and begin to get more radically honest with yourself and radically aware with the patterns that you're bringing that are co-creating the conflict. So that's one. And the second thing is, I really do believe that these kinds of conversations um, lead to deeper self-awareness, deeper awakening, um, and deeper connection. So he knows me a little bit better. I know him a little bit better. And from that place, I can go over and get inside his experience and see him and understand him and honor and respect those parts. And then he can come over and see me more clearly and my parts. And we're out of judgment. We're out of being right and out of being wrong. We're just sort of bringing ourselves forward in the most authentic and honest way possible. And then hopefully co-creating a resolution moving forward. So in this case, um, for me, it looks like getting radically honest with myself when it comes to doing things for my kids, which means I might have to say no. And while it looks like saying no might be disappointing them, what's actually true is there's a part of me I have to look at that's being disappointed. So that's the first thing. Um, the part of me, there's some part of me that feels like you want to be mama bear all the time, and you can't. And you got to take responsibility for that part and honor and love that part and let that one go and trust they're all going to be okay. The second part for me, and this is a particular thing in my relationship with my son in particular. I notice with my daughters, they seem to be more clear, but with my son, not so much. So, clean and clear agreements, really, really important. That means like who is going to do what by when, and getting really clear about it, and then taking responsibility for putting that on our calendars or for somehow making it clear in writing, because our memories are not reliable. Our memories are tricky. So we got a lot of things going on. Clean and clear agreements are important. And then the third piece, which I think is more of like a collective consciousness piece, is this piece where um, the entitlement stuff came up. So in him, I think there's entitlement over there in him, and then there's entitlement over here in me. And when I'm talking about doing our spiritual work and being conscious, being more radically aware, we get to go below the surface of things and look at like, how is this energy, what I'm going to call entitlement energy, how is that coming forward to be healed and cleared? Because if I can't heal and clear these things in me and in my relationships, in my, nuclear family, in my most intimate relationships, if I can't clear them here, there ain't no way they're getting cleared out there in the collective. And we know that these things that exist in us, that we see out there, exist in us. So there's tons of entitlement in the world. And the way in which we navigate it is really, really important. But if we use our relationships to show us the way in which it's being expressed right here, then and only then can we help contribute to the healing of those energies and, yeah, just those energies on the planet. So I think that's all I've got to say. So maybe a good practice for us, maybe I can include stuff around how to create clean and clear agreements. I think that's a really, really good one. And then also this idea, practice this week in yourself, this idea of full body yes. Like, are you honoring yourself when you're saying yes to others as much as you're honoring the other? Because if you don't, it's going to lead to resentment. At least that's been my experience. All right. Thank you so much. So good to be with you. See you next time.